Hi, everybody. I'm just going to wait a few minutes and let people get over here. Thank you, Judith. Thanks for listening. I hope you sold 1 million books. Hi, Stacy. Thanks for making this possible for me, really, because if I couldn't adopt them out, I don't know what I would. I'd stop. I can't have, 1,000 crabs growing in my house. My first babies are, well, I can see if there's anybody up. They're in the big tank. They're in my 120 tall now. They're from 2018. I see one. The ones I kept are ones that I selected for, so that's your size. I selected for non-pinching, for trying not to be too shy. So this one should come out fairly quickly. Any of the shy ones I just adopted out because I'm looking for the second generation. I'm looking towards, right, if we're going to breed them to be more sociable, to be more like pets, then we need them to have certain characteristics that we want to replicate. So that's why I'm going to put this guy back so I can focus. Come on. You're okay. Oop, there you go. The 2018 babies, those guys are, so they're almost 2 years old. They have been in my big tank with my big hermits for more than a year. I've had no problems. They're very protective of them. They do really well in there. I'm just going to periodically scroll down and try to keep track of, well, so right here on my desk, I have some of the 20, let me just give you a really good range. These are all 2019 babies, if you can see them. Oh, I'm so bad at this. I'm so bad at this. They're all different sizes. That little tiny one there was born at the same time as this guy. So this is what Stacy meant means when she says we can't judge the age. Those three, there's a small, medium, and large. They were all born last year in 2019. And I promised that I would, I've thought a lot about it. It's not sex related. It's not gender. It's not conditions because these babies have the same parent. It's not genetics in terms of parentage. These have the same parents. They've been raised in the same conditions, been given the same foods, have the same birth date. There's really no explanation for any of those things except what I think it is. I think it's a species. This is my latest theory, not proven. But I think it's a species adaptation to account for conditions in the environment. So if you have 10,000 eggs, and you want as many babies to survive as possible, it makes more sense to have the ratios of their growth be different. So tiny, tiny babies are more likely to survive a drought. They have access to many more small shells than larger shells, etc. So larger babies grow faster, can mate sooner, can reproduce sooner, but might be more vulnerable to things like drought or scarcity of food. So I feel like it's a species thing. You spread that risk out and you get a higher survival rate by having babies that develop at different stages. That's all I can figure. I was talking to Dr. Tudge about it. He thinks that's a reasonable theory. We don't really know. If we have babies that pass away, I will preserve them and send them to him, and he can check DNA and see if there's some reason. There's also a very, very minute possibility that it's a crossbreed because I have E's in the same tank. And, I don't think that's what happened, but in science, you allow for all possibilities until proven otherwise. So I'm leaving that open. So sorry, let me go back to questions. No pinching. Yes, that's what we want. They're kind of cute though when they pinch until they get older. They do all right with isopods, Robin. I was worried about it. Um, the day that I stopped worrying about it, if you see my water tank there, my it's a 2.5 gallon. That's my fresh water. It's right up against the glass. I happened to be in here. I saw an isopod making his way on this side. I saw a baby making his way on this side towards each other, and I'm wondering what they're going to do. When they met, the baby did a donkey kick and knocked the isopod right into the water, and I fished him out. And I was like, okay, I think you can handle yourself. I haven't noticed any issues at all with isopods, even larger ones. They just seem to coexist. The megalopa should take shells before they come to land, Erica. They don't always. In my talk, I told you what to do if they don't. They come out and do handstands on their claws and stick their butts up in the air. I don't know if they're trying to dry it, whatever. I put a lot of shells on the ramp, so they have to crawl over them to get out. And if they don't, I squirt them back in. I've taken toothpicks and very carefully lifted them and put their butts in a shell, and that works maybe 2% of the time, and it's a lot of effort on my part and probably more dangerous for them. So now I just squirt them back in the water and let them have another go at it. Just looking at the questions. Yeah, they do know how to pinch, Stacy. I adopted out all the pinchers. So we also, if you recall, Stacy, we thought at that time we still thought we had Ecuadorians, and the reason I thought that is because I saw a compressus with eggs and a Clypeatus with eggs at roughly the same time. I saw the spawn. I saw a compressus leaving the water, but I didn't see spawning. And I thought, probably not. But then about halfway through at stage 5, I saw very clearly different blue stage 5 and orange stage 5. And I do have a picture of it, which it's on my website, but I could post it somewhere. And the only explanation I could account for that was that it was because compresses can be blue when they're small. You know, I asked people, they sort of agreed with me. So then I was like, oh, yummies, yay, which was my first mistake. Never claim until you totally verify. We still thought it for a long time. When Stacy and everyone at CrabCon last year was picking them out, we said, okay, the smallest ones, the pinchers, the ones that, run away from you, that drop their shells, we think those might be E's. So everybody picked those small ones thinking, oh, I've got E's. Then later that season, I got another spawn. I knew we're all Clypeatus, no question. The E's were down, they weren't around. And at stage 5, I saw red and blue again. And then I was like, oh, crap. And so we had to kind of revise all of that thinking. I felt better that I wasn't the only one who assumed that, but I still felt a little embarrassed. But you know what? We're all learning, and we're getting it figured out. My isopod numbers, my crabs keep them down, Christy. In my 120 tall, I have super hunters that I noticed hunting behavior from Artemis, how she got her name. I don't know if she taught the others, if they all knew this in the wild, but they're all exhibiting this behavior now. Well, all the ones that hunt. They dig a little bit of a depression. They hover over, sorry, I'm trying to give you a visual. They hover sort of over it and crouch in a really weird position. And when an isopod hits that depression and falls into it, and they sense it and they feel it, they capture it and eat it. So my straws do not do that, so I don't have isopods in the new straw tank. I had it in the old straw tank. They were going crazy. And mine were also harvested from my backyard, so I can put them back out anytime. There are way more babies than those who are able to adopt them. Fortunately, I have really wonderful, supportive people who who have been with me in this from the beginning, who I'm calling my regional adoption facilitators, and they can take multiples, and they will be getting multiples when the weather cools down a little bit so that I can clear out as many as possible. I will, again, try to keep 20 or so for me. Yeah, Stacy's going to get about 100. She can go to reptile expos with them. Anna's offered to take some. Darcy's offered to take some. These are all people who have 2018 babies, who know how to handle them, who I trust implicitly to help me further the mission. So hope you guys are getting ready for your influx. Oh, how many times? Lately, I haven't looked in my tank very often because I've been super busy. But normally, yeah, I'm a big lurker. I don't think I'm gonna explain the 50% water change here, Erica, because it is in the talk. It's just a siphon out and replace and put back any babies, but I don't want to go into depth with that. Brooke, yeah, the isopods for my backyard, whatever those are. There were no E's from 2018, none. We thought there were not. I edited that on my website. I didn't edit it in the time it was happening because I wanted to be true to what the path was, but I edited in a summary that we were wrong. I don't believe in going back and editing your data that you're collecting at the time, even if it's wrong. I wanted that to stand, but then I added a correction to reflect it. Yeah, so I think I'm caught up. If you have questions about anything, I don't care. It can be the simpler breeding methods. That's the purpose of the talk, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Freshwater snail shells, yes, and even the growing babies will take them too. This is one of the, I don't know snail varieties, but it's a very light one, so I'm assuming it's a freshwater. Freshwater snail. They are so fragile. They're really hard to, even when they've gone in there, they get. I don't know if it's the salt water that messes them up. Moving, I have to wash them. So in general, the freshwater snail shells for the megalopa don't seem to work great for whatever reason. Some because they're fragile, some because maybe they evolved to want the marine snail shells. I don't know. They do love I can't show you very well with this camera, but I can show you the package of them. So this is a bottle that used to have instant baby brine shrimp in it. It says first shells. You have to recollect them after they come to land and pick a larger shell. It's really hard. They're roughly the size of sand. There's probably about 600 shells in here. And you can see no, you can't, but they really literally fit under your fingernail. It is and don't take the top off and drop them because you'll never find them and you'll cry, trust me. Those are gold once I have them. I know especially once a crab has taken one, I know they work. So they're like doubly valuable. At one time, I thought I could offer those to people. I'm now getting 400 or more crabs with each batch. And it's migraine inducing picking those out. They're gold. I can't do that, unfortunately. But, if you try mixes and the Etsy Sailor's Valentine's things, you can find your shells. And once you have them, do not lose them. Brooke, they stay, it depends on the crab, just like adults. I still have some in, so this 20 tall has the Mysteriosa. Oh, sorry, you can't see it. The 20 tall has the Mysteriosa babies in it, and they came out of the water mid-May, I want to say, sometime in there. I still have a couple of those that look to be that small, but I have some taking larger ones. So it depends on their growth rate. Some of them almost immediately change. I have shells on land. I make sure to have shells on land so they can change if they want. Sometimes what you want to wear out of the water, your bathing suit, is not what you want to wear on land because it's suddenly whatever, not appropriate, heavy or whatever. So yeah, some change immediately. Yeah, like spilling beads. And in my, not even thinking about it, my carpet in here is sand colored, variegated browns and tans. And so when I drop shells, I'm down on the floor, like feeling with my hand. It's pitiful. I don't want to lose them, but it's super easy to do. Just tap it, brush it. Whoosh, you got a catastrophe. How will captive breeding affect the retail pet industry? I wish I knew, Stacy. I hopefully the pet hermit crab industry, hopefully it will shut it down. Hopefully people will value the ones that have been bred in captivity, that have never known the wild, that have always seen a human face from the time of hatching. I don't know. This is the grand experiment that we're all participating in. And as you know, Stacy, sometimes I have long sleepless nights worrying if I'm doing the right thing even. Is it better? Is it ethical? I think so, but I don't know. It's incredibly exhausting, Stephanie. It's also energizing, right? It's like my encouragement would be just follow the steps. That's why I made a roadmap. When you're anxious and you don't know what you're doing and you don't know what's working and you're stressing, just go back to the roadmap and do it. It might feel wrong. But if you don't know what's right, and I had to tell myself that too. Just follow the steps. Just trust the process. Let them be crabs, even baby larval crabs. I tell myself that with my adult crabs all the time. They know what to do. It's encoded into their DNA. Try to give them everything they need to do it, and try not to stress. I also used to tell myself, like, I felt like I was playing God. I didn't want to play God. I just wanted to, so I said, okay, I'm not God, I'm the ocean. And I would tell myself sometimes, just be the ocean, Mary. Just give them what you think they need, what you think is best. Sometimes the ocean is turbulent and awful and dirty, and sometimes it's welcoming, and and I just did the best I could. I tried to be the ocean. I hope so too, Kelly. That's the goal. Exotic pets, right? What other pet do you pay $5 for, or $6, that takes a month to bring to land, a special tank? You can't leave home. You have to treat them every day until they come out of land. And then you have to raise them for almost a year before they're adoptable. Please, when people balk at $50, I understand that. But that's the adoption fee. It goes back into the adoption program. It goes back into education and advocacy. And it, most importantly, and the only reason I could allow myself to set that number for crabs, is it values the crabs. People take better care of animals that cost more. Sad as that is. I could give them away and be happy if I knew that everyone who got them would cherish them long term. But I am also setting a precedent for people who try this in the future. They need to know that if they're going to do all this effort, their crabs will also be worth something to people, and their efforts will be valued. And it's just a philosophy. They're exotic, incredible, magical creatures that take so much work. Their adoption fee is $50. And I hope that people understand that and get on board with that. And if they don't, I'll stop breeding. But it's all about the crabs. It's all about valuing them. And you're going to have this creature maybe for 44 years. Ask Carol Orms, right? And you pay $5 for it. It was in the pet store in my hometown the other day, and there were some captive bred. I don't even remember what they were. Something not so much different that didn't take a year to raise, and they were $200 each, and nobody bats an eyelash at that. So that's what I'm trying to change. See crabs for what they are and how beautiful they are. Jean, they're tame-ish, and just like adult crabs, some are more tame than others. I think the ones that are genetically predisposed to be less fearful are perhaps even less fearful, because they've grown up with me. Yeah, they've certainly seen me. So I don't, that's part of the experiment too. We're all trying, some of us are handling the babies to see if it makes a difference in how they grow and mature. Some are choosing not to. We're keeping records. I think we'll know, maybe 20 years from now. Yep, Brooke, I agree, educating. My tanks are in, Erica, my tanks are my tanks. I don't have breeding tanks. I do have an exotics tank separate for separate conditions. And I have my purple pinchers, and I have the compresses in with them now, but I may change that too. They're happy, they like each other, so I'm leaving it for now. One thing it's important for me to stress is, I say I'm breeding crabs, but I'm not. And I talked about this in the breeding session, but I'll just say it again because I think it warrants repeating. My crabs are breeding. They are giving me eggs. They're depositing eggs in my saltwater dish. I don't have control over if they mate. I don't have control over if they spawn correctly. But if they do, I have a choice. I can flush them down the toilet, wash them down the sink, or try to give them the best shot at life. So I am relying on the crabs to do their part. I'm not forcing anybody to spawn. I tried that once. It didn't feel right. This is a cooperative effort between me and the crabs. And if they do it right, I will do my best to do it right too. So I'm not trying to force anything. I'm not really trying to encourage breeding. I'm just trying to encourage the best conditions that then by extension encourages breeding, but that's not the goal. It's really hard to see them in the water with the naked eye. Having a bright overhead light helps a lot. Having that chrysal with the one pane of glass and the open part silicone there gives you just one surface of glass, and they'll come right up to it. My first attempt was in mason jars like Sue's and like some other people have tried, and you really can't see them well at all in there to get pictures or anything. You're looking through water and glass and another glass, and it doesn't work very well. Yeah, puppies take less work and way more expensive and live fewer years. So yes, but they're cuddly. Scrolling down. Love you guys. Thank you for those strokes. The 1-year adoptability was mostly about size. I mean, they're just, and it's more like 10 months because mine spawn in September and October, and I usually start adopting them out in June, July. This year I'm adopting out the larger ones unless someone specifically wants a teeny tiny one, which I don't prefer because they're harder. But yeah, I just don't want to give people terrifying pets. And you can ask anyone who's adopted the larger ones, they're still so small, they're terrifying, right? It's just scary. It's easier for them to get trapped in things, to get caught under pools, to get lost in the tank, to, whatever. It's a fairly arbitrary thing that I may back off as people get more experienced with keeping them, but for now it feels like the right time frame. Yeah, breeding is not cheap. Preach. How long do they live? Judith, we don't really know about captive breds. They might live longer. They might live less long. So far, they're all doing pretty well, or most of them are doing pretty well. We've had some losses, which we're tracking. Carol Ann Orms has had Jonathan in captivity for this August will be 44 years. So, yeah, lifelong pet. I'm going to have to put all my hermit crabs into my will. My poor kids. Or you guys, whoever, somebody who can take them. The most difficult aspect of survival of Zoe that requires the most attention to detail. Yeah, Dan, I think that depends on the setup and the individual doing it, because for me, the first year it was definitely water. There's a learning curve. I got better. The holding tank helped. Second year, water was a no-brainer. I just figured it out. Feeding, it's hard to feed small enough amounts. Tammy will tell you that. She was talking about it earlier, how it fouled the water in her attempt. I literally take a chopstick, touch it to the powders, Gonio Power or Phytoplan or Spirulina or Chlorella, whatever powder I'm feeding, touch it. Don't wet it, nothing. Touch it. You can barely see anything on there. I tap it on the edge of the tank above the chrysal opening, and there's a little tiny film on the water. And that's plenty of food. That's tons of food. I can't see it. I don't even believe it's there. In the beginning, I fed way too much. That contributed to losses. So literally the smallest amount you can feed seems to be enough, at least until they get, stage 5, then maybe you can see a little more. And then you're feeding live brine shrimp, and you can see, because they've consumed them all, that you need to add more. I will be shipping out again sometime after CrabCon. I will be reconfirming with everyone that their conditions are still good. Just a second review. Well, I won't. I'm going to you're in the baby group, Crystal, so we can do it in there with Anna's help. I just want to make sure everybody's good to go, not still having issues, tanks are stabilized, etc. Yeah, I think hermit crabs are easy, but that's a loaded phrase, Robin. Once you get the setup, once you get everything down, if you have no issues. When they're pet sand and they're molting, they're super easy. I still manage to stress, and I still spend a lot on them. Yeah, I do. For enrichment, for foods, try new stuff, beautiful shells. That's my on me, right? It's my hobby, but yeah, I don't know. Okay, sorry. I know we're already a half hour into it. I'll try to scroll more quickly and answer more quickly. I don't do the coffee grounds now, Brooke. I occasionally offer used coffee grounds because they like them. There's there's plenty of antioxidants. There's not much caffeine after they're used. In the wild, in the Turks and Caicos, when I lived there, people would just throw their coffee grounds outside in the morning when they were done, and the crabs would come and eat them. So I knew that the wild crabs craved them and liked them, and certainly didn't hurt them. Some collectors used to use coffee grounds to entice them, to capture them, I believe. I read that somewhere. So I occasionally feed them in the worm castings, like all mixed up, so they don't get a concentrated amount, but they definitely like them. No, just one adoption form, Jean, works, and you say how many. Minimum of 2 at this point, just so they're not alone, so they have a buddy. 4 is great. I'm helping people with shipping costs as a way to encourage them to consider adopting 1 or 2 more for the baby's sake, for my sake, to get them out, for your sake, because you'll see them more often. I think people who've adopted 4 seem to be the most, 4 or more seem to be the most excited and see them the most, but that's again what everybody's budget can handle. I know, Kelsey, they are terrifying. They're tiny. The struggle is real, Stacy. Nope, just one form for the baby adoptions. It needs to be that specific form, which is available through the link. If you just Google captive hermit crab baby adoptions, it comes up. Oh, awesome, Kelsey. Yeah, I'll give you I'll have to do it. I hope somebody put your talk up because I wasn't on that list. Can somebody, well, I'll just assume it's up because I can't really stop and check, but hopefully Kelsey's talk is up. And yeah, I'll give you a Q&A. Yours is a long talk, so I still have time to do that. Just takes about 5 or 10 minutes for me to do all the steps. In the Chrysal, Robin, mine stay suspended really well. There's a big volume of water. I don't have even particularly good circulation. I just have air. And as long as they're fed, they swim well. And they didn't in the mason jars, but in the large Chrysal volume of water, they seem to do really well. Abby, a friend of mine in Buffalo, also a hermit crab keeper, has offered to take any Zoe eggs of mine that I'm going to get this year from my crew, and she's going to give it a try. And it's fine if she fails, right? This is a chance for her to have ready-made eggs, not stress about it, have mentorship from me, and we'll see how it goes. I think it's a great way to take the next step. I can't continue. I have hundreds left. I can't do any more Clypeatus. So she's going to take them. God bless her, Brianna Schmidt. Thank you. I'm sure you're probably watching. And that's a huge step for me. So no Clypeatus for me. A 10-gallon will work for tiny babies, Crystal, for a long time. Yeah, or you can put them in with your adults. Most people opted to have them in a tank by themselves first to get calm about them, to get used to them, to let them grow a little bit, and then they put them in with the bigger ones. Yeah, follow Anna's rules for the forms for sure. She's got it down. I buy food off Etsy, and I make my own, Robin. And the babies come with some small amount of foods. Many of it ready-made. They love the baby shrimp, not the full adult shrimp. They like the softer baby shrimp that you can buy for fish feeding. They like bloodworms, which you can buy to feed fish. Those are the protein sources. Any exo mix, as long as it's powdered and small. And then just the other things that your crabs eat. Yeah, I don't know about that, Stephanie. We'll see. It's a very hectic time. I'd like to do that. It's on my list, and it's not very elegant, right? I have a siphon. I'm sucking the water in and then getting it, I'm squinting, and I can do it. You're gonna think I look like a hermit troll or something, but yeah, it's not a glamorous thing raising Zoe. So maybe you'll get a video if I'm not feeling too self-conscious. Yeah, hermit crabs were very gentle with each other. It's not elegant. Stacy, Kelsey, all you guys who have done this can attest. I'm not, elegant, I'm sweating and anxious and oh my God. And Maybe that's my next goal, to try and make it look graceful. Good luck. I'm not generally graceful. You say that now, Anna. You don't want to see me. I mean, no, it's not pretty, but, and usually it's first thing in the morning in my pajamas with, bedhead and bleary eyes, and oh God, it reminds me of the 80s commercial, that guy, time to make the donuts, for if you're old enough to remember that. That's me. Time to change the water, mixing 200 gallons, Yeah. Yeah, well, okay. We'll see. My husband has to do it. I can't possibly do it. Yeah, I have seen a lot of changes in personality in mine too. I think it's how we, how we choose to keep them. Some want them hands off pets to observe them in as natural a habitat as possible, and some want to see if they can socialize them. And I'm not a fan in particular of either method. I think both are very interesting and useful. For the most part, for my adults, because they're wild caught, I personally leave them alone. I don't handle them. For the babies, because this is a grand experiment, I do handle them. I have a one-eyed baby that I can really track progress, and I handle him a fair amount, and he likes it. When the conditions outside the tank warrant it. I don't hold him in my 60-degree house in the winter. But yeah, so I'm not the person to tell you to do it one way or the other. But personally, those are my methods. My wild caught crabs are hands off. My captive bred babies, I've been handling since they were born. I've been picking them up with a pipette since they were microscopic. I have to move them all the time. So to me, to make them suddenly hands off felt like the change for the babies. So Brianna, I believe, is handling her captive bred babies to see how they socialize. So anyway, that's a philosophical debate, and I don't come down on one side or the other, but I follow the rules of the groups that I'm in when I post about it. Salt encrusted troll. Yeah, the first time I did it, about a week into it, I was like, why can't I see anything? And I went, oh, and there was salt water spray all over my glasses. My bathroom drain is now rusting from all the salt water I've poured into it. Don't tell my husband that's why. I just told him it was something wrong with it. But how do you assume he likes it? Yeah, well, I can put my hand in and he'll come right onto my hand. So to me, that tells me that he likes it. He's coming to me. In a sense, that's like a baby. Pick me up, right? If my hand is there and he walks on it, to me, that tells me that he's not sketched out and he wants to explore. Yeah, a lot of that stuff we're learning can be passed down genetically. So that's why I'm also interested in a second generation of captive bred babies. And if they're held and they're comfortable with people, maybe that'll show up in their offspring. Who knows? Also part of the grand experiment. So we have a few minutes left. I can't remember. Let me just check if I'm on another. I think I'm on something else coming up. Oh, MOA is going now, but I've already seen it. It's wonderful. You can watch it. It's not super long, so if you go and watch it, I think it's like 10 minutes or something, MOA's. So if you're in here and you're worried that you're missing it, you can still go back at quarter of and catch the full thing in its entirety before we load Kelsey's wonderful talk about enrichment, which was mind-blowing. Basic setup, I've been asked that a lot. And again, it depends on your methods and what you have on hand. I had plenty of air pumps on hand. I had plenty of hose. I had plenty of bubblers. I had some extra 10-gallon tanks from rescues and fosters. So from that point, it didn't cost anything. I think I'm going to make on my Etsy shop, I'm going to make a baby food pack with little tiny, you need almost nothing. So you don't have to buy the whole of everything. So if I get some of these and I put some brine shrimp eggs in there, some phytoplan, some gonia power, like all the foods that I eat that aren't wet based, that I can do that dry, I'll just put that up for people who want to try. So they don't have to buy every single product. I wish I could do baby shells too. I'm sorry, I can't at this time. I'm a victim of my own success, and so are you in that case. Well, yeah, not for adopters, but for people who want to give Raising Zoe a try. That's what I'm thinking. I could also do it for baby adopters too, but I'm thinking specifically people who want to raise Zoe and don't want the huge initial commitment of buying full packages of everything if they're not going to pursue it long term. I have, Brooke. I have fed adult crabs some of those. In particular, they don't seem too interested in it, but when I have a sick or injured crab, like I had a perlatus last year that was a rescue that lost his big claw and in his molt and came up with only the smaller one. And that really doesn't hinder eating, but he was super lethargic. He didn't want to come out. He was super shy. I was really worried about him. I took decapsulated brine shrimp. I took gonio power. I took spirulina and or chlorella. I mixed them with a tiny bit of honey to make a very thick paste. So it's almost no honey in comparison, but just enough to hold it all together. I smeared it on a chopstick and I stuck it right up next to him, back where he was hiding. He ate that way. I had to keep refreshing it for 2 weeks before he finally came out. He seemed to love it. I think it was nutrient dense. It's like giving someone on a feeding tube, you're giving it, something very nutrient dense to them directly. So he had another molt. He's great. He's had 2 more molts since. I also sent some of that to Sherry Werdebaugh when an Exo Mix. Definitely put some of my powdered Exo Mix in there with that slurry of stuff. And she fed that to Robert William, her mostly legless crab, and he seemed to benefit from it too. So mostly I just give it as a nutrient dense thing for sick or injured crabs. Yeah, I didn't even worry about expiration, Kelsey. Maybe with the instant baby brine shrimp or the marine snow, it would be an issue. I didn't worry. I've been using the same gonia power, the same phytoplan, the same sinking pellets for like 5 years. It's fine. And they're still living. I mean, if you're worried about it, you can replace it, but it's not like I don't think it goes bad. It didn't smell bad. It didn't look, maybe it's losing some nutrients, but it's still working. So unless you're really inclined to do all fresh, I wouldn't worry about it. Yeah, Kelly, for you, you'd be a good one for that. Yeah, exactly. It's something you could have on hand to be backup as you. I don't know, Judith. It's weird. Women seem to gravitate to it. I don't know. Good question. Do us some research, would you? I have not tried the phytochrome. I saw that you mentioned it before, and I didn't have a chance to answer you in there, Robin, but I'd like to try it. Yeah, I'm always interested in trying things. I am interested in trying rotifers and copepods too. I just haven't, it's a lot, and I have a lot on hand, and it's working, but I would be interested. I'd be super interested if somebody else would try it and tell me. That would be even better. But yeah, I may get some of those. Did I ever breed any other animals previously? Never. I mean, guppies, they just, right, they do themselves. That happened without me thinking about it. I was a really weird kid, though, like probably I think many of us were. I'm just going to speak for us all. I used to go out in the wild for hours at a time. We had a pond. I loved watching the bugs mate and see and try to see what eggs they laid. I used to capture salamanders and newts and put them in an aquarium. Newts, I guess. Put them in an aquarium with pond water. Watch them mate. Watch them lay the string of eggs. I was super fascinated. I took them back out and put them back in the water because I knew I couldn't handle it. But like, I've had a weird lifelong obsession with mating invertebrates or, you know, small creatures, slimy things, and how they make babies and how their eggs look. And my weird obsession has come full circle. Just like my pottery has come into my crabs, my writing, I'm now writing a book about this, you know. So like all these obsessions are coalescing around my crabs. So I love my crabs, and they've given me a lot, and they brought me all of you all as friends. So yeah. I've never had tarantulas. They are really interesting to me. I'm a little spider squeamish. I move them outside in my house. I probably need to get to know one to love a tarantula. I've never even held one, but I'd like to. Bring one to the next CrabCon, and I'll hold it, and you can tell me all about it. They do, Kelsey. They do get into every part of your life. Gotcha. Hands off is okay with me. Yeah, see, I know you guys are my tribe. You guys are my tribe. Weird nature kids. And here we are, like we're changing the industry. And I'm so grateful to all of you. And like Stacy cried talking about the captive bred crabs and how they're treated. I cry when I think about how I couldn't do this alone, and I'm not doing this alone. And it's what keeps me going. And all of you on the other end, valuing my efforts, valuing the crabs, valuing what we're all trying to do. I tell Stacy it takes a colony, and you guys are my colony. And whew, let me get my my menopause fan out. Whew. Dry my tears. But yeah, I wouldn't be able to do this alone, and I'm not alone. I love you guys so much. And we have about 8 minutes left. So how did I get animals? I grew up on a farm, sort of. Like it was a farm that was a tenant-owned farm, and we were not the tenants that tended it, but we were kind of stuck there in the big farmhouse. And we had a billy goat, Fitzhugh monorail. We had a ton of rabbits in a hutch. We had cats that bred like crazy. It was the 60s and 70s. So, you know, there wasn't a lot of great animal care at that time, but I was super interested in it. I would go out in the woods for hours at a time, and snakes and spider, you know, like everything. So I've always, like also many of you, I've always been super comfortable around animals. I like to enter their world. In scuba diving, I love that. I feel like a fish, you know. It's that same thing when I get in the woods and I'm sitting there and I'm just watching everything go by. So I relate to animals, and I've just always loved them. I had hamsters when I was little. I had any animal my parents would let me have, which were very few. Fish, I had fish, you know, dogs and cats, all of those, wonderful. I have a really cool picture of me as a kid in hand-me-downs with dirt all over my face and, you know, bangs cut badly, and because I was sort of a free-range kid. And I've got a rat, it's black and white. I've got a rabbit in one hand and a kitten in the other. And I'm the happiest kid you've ever seen in my my big brother's shirt that's too big for me, and my dirty legs and bare feet and my critters. So I know you guys are all the same. Oh, yeah, ignore pain, right? Animals don't feel pain. What? What's the purpose of pain if it's not to, teach us something? So anyway, you guys, my tribe, my colony, thank you for being here. I'm probably going to go off camera and go, touch up my face, which has no makeup on it anyway, but thank you, Stacy. My goodness, you're my, I'm not good at metaphors. You're my linchpin. No, that doesn't sound right. What's the one? Like my, whatever. Anchor doesn't sound right. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, Stacy, I'll come up with something better for you. You're my rock. All right, stay capstone. There we go. The thing that keeps the arch from falling down. Yes. And we're all leaning against you so we can stay up. No pressure, Stacy, but all right. Love you guys. Mwah.